There are many lessons that has to be learned when we are alone. Oftentimes it's learning where to start that makes us confused because we don't know where to begin. Beginning starts with a thought, and it also starts with understanding with the process. The process is going to help you learn how to be alone and how to forgive yourself along the way. The first point that we're going to speak about after being alone is why forgiveness is so important. Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Terryl with the Humphrey, and welcome to another episode of Failure is Knowledge. If this is your first time here at Failure is Knowledge, make sure you like, subscribe, and wait towards the end and leave a comment because we're diving deep on the steps to take when you are alone. See, once you get alone, it's not a punishment, it's ways and process and understanding how to learn more about yourself. The first point that we're going to speak about is how to forgive yourself. See, learning how to forgive yourself will help us forgive others. But first, we have to start with us. Reason being, because if we don't know why we're forgiving the next person, how can we even forgive ourselves? That's why it's so important to be alone, because when you're alone, that's when guilt and everything that we have been running away from gets brought back into the light. See, the light is disappeared because we're in a tunnel and the light is so small. We don't see the greater success from this. We don't see the potential from this effort because we don't know no way out of it. That's when I understood that forgiveness begin to discover the light in the tunnel, because as the tunnel is going along your journey, as you are walking in the dark, there's a small little light that's shining through the cracks that's letting you know you're in the right direction. That's why it's so important to start with yourself, learn how to forgive yourself. And to recap and to speak about what the last video was about, if you haven't watched it, make sure you click this video right here. But to recap it, isolation, to be isolated by yourself, you have to learn who you are. This is the most valuable lesson that comes because we have to be open to learning ourselves. See, the best lesson comes when we learn ourselves and why we're learning ourselves at that moment. We're learning ourselves at that moment because we're facing tough times. Tough times never end. Tough times never disappear. They just get brought up differently. And when they get brought up differently, now we get knocked down. See, oftentimes in life, we get knocked down so many times, we forget to pick ourselves back up because when they got comfortable getting knocked down. See, not knowing, the more we get up, the more we learn, the more we grow. We're not only building ourselves, but we're becoming more stronger than ever because we know how to handle pain. We know how to handle the tough times. We know how to handle things that we ain't never faced before. See, that's why being alone is so important, because it helps you identify and prepare you for the person that you're becoming, for the adversity and bad problems and bad situations to come. Because one thing about life, it doesn't stop happening. Tough situations, tough times, tough moments doesn't stop coming. They just come in a different light. See, when you get knocked down the first time, that's when we build ourselves back up to get up the next time. See, oftentimes in life, we might have to get knocked down 10 times to learn the lesson. But it's learning the lesson that makes it more beneficial, that makes it more great, and makes it more understanding, because we are able to pick ourselves back up. See, understanding why being alone, it is important to recognize that you have to forgive yourself, because forgiveness starts with self. I remember when I went through my divorce was so heartbreaking because I didn't know how to be by myself. I was afraid to be alone because I was so used to being in somebody else's area. Not knowing me being alone was the best thing that could ever happen, because it taught me how to learn myself. See, when things and people and situations and time keep going on and keep coming about, we forget to put ourselves first. How can we learn more about ourselves if we never started with the person in the mirror? See, one thing that Michael Jackson knew and he understood, he knew himself. That's why when he knew himself, he was able to make the music, the song, the instruments, the team around everything that he was, because he understood who he was becoming. Now, you got to give credit to his dad, because his dad trained him the right way. His dad taught him the right way, because when he taught him the right way, he knew why self mattered. Because first you got to learn how to forgive yourself. See, my favorite song by Michael Jackson is Man in the Mirror. And it's my favorite because it says we have to start with the man in the mirror to what do you say? I'm starting with the man in the mirror. Because I have to change my ways. I can't change the people ways, the people that surround me ways. I can only change my way. See, that's when I understood that Michael had a passion. He had an understanding of people and problems and tough situations, but he had to start with the man in the mirror. See, the man in the mirror taught him that it's okay to be alone. Not only is it okay to be alone, this is where your great lessons come from, because you have to learn how to forgive yourself. See, forgiveness isn't easy because it takes learning, it takes understanding, it takes practice. It takes patience to learn how to properly forgive. You properly forgive by learning that what has already happened to you is happening for you, and you can't change the past. See, the past has already happened. That's what we're forgiving. We're forgiving ourselves for being so hard on ourselves. We recognize, okay, maybe I wasn't in control of that situation. And even though I wasn't in control of my breakup, even though I wasn't in control of my divorce and me being alone, it taught me that it's okay. It's okay to forgive yourself, because you can't change and worry about what the next person do. My biggest question that I asked, how many I was on the phone with my mama, me and my mom was on the phone when it was going down. I asked her this one question. I said, I just don't understand. I'm sorry, I make this one statement. I said, I just don't understand. I just don't understand. Oftentimes in life, we try to understand things that are not meant to be understood. That's when it hit me. I'm like, oh, I'm worrying about the wrong thing. I'm worrying about the wrong thing, because I can't change and worry about what the other people, other persons are doing, because I'm not starting with myself. That's when I understood forgiveness come from understanding, and this understanding that we can't control what other people do. We have to control ourselves. We have to control how we respond. We have to control and understand we react in this way for a particular reason. See, forgiveness helps you understand that you are going to be okay. You are going to be okay because you're constantly doing it. You're constantly putting yourself out there. You're constantly understanding that you had to be isolated to learn more about yourself. See, when you learn more about yourself, that's why you understand. That's when you begin to understand forgiveness. Forgiveness is a challenge that has to be faced. That's the next point I want to hit on. Forgiving is a challenge that has to be faced, because we have to be comfortable with being alone. We have to learn how to be alone, because oftentimes we have so many people around us. We forget about that process. We forget about ourselves. We forget about everything that we would like to do, because we so focused on the next person. Well, at least I was worried about if I wasn't good enough. I was worried about if I wasn't doing the right thing. Not knowing I had to forgive myself to let myself know that you're doing the right thing. You just have to develop patience along your journey. The patience is taking time. It's taking daily action every single day. And see, every single day you take action for yourself. You learn how to forgive who you are. See, man in the mirror is so powerful because you have to start with yourself. You have to start with the person in the mirror to recognize that you are okay where you are at. And you are okay where you are at because you're going further. You're picking yourself back on the ground and understanding that this hard time is not going to be here. I'm just growing a little bit better. I'm just overcoming what I've been through just a little bit stronger. See, as I understood that growth comes from effort and the effort comes from time, that's when I began to forgive myself. Because I can't forgive myself overnight. I can forgive myself through daily practices, through daily effort, through daily understanding, through daily learning more about who I am. See, being alone is so scary, because how do you be alone if you never learn how to be? You have to forgive yourself. Forgiving yourself is so important because it leads you not to be so hard on yourself. That's how you be comfortable with being alone, because you have to forgive everything that has taken place. You have to forgive everything that you have experienced. I didn't say forget. I said forgive. You have to forgive yourself before you can forgive the next person. That's why understanding, it starts with us. But why does it start with us? Why does it start with us? It starts with us because we are the only ones that can change our life. We are the only ones that can fix what we have been through, because it's not necessarily fixing. It's just learning and accepting and forgiving yourself. because you're no longer hard on yourself. You're no longer tough on yourself. Like, I'm not that good. I'm not that great. But Michael knew himself and he believed in everything that he was doing. Michael Jackson is known worldwide. And even though he's known worldwide, he kept and continued to work on himself. See, being alone is a challenge that has to be faced, and it has to be faced because we have to learn how to be alone. It's not easy. But look at it like this. Everything that's not easy becomes easy once we continue to do it. Becomes understandable, becomes learnable if we are willing to learn about it. See, it's only difficult. It's only not easy because this is something that we ain't never done before. We haven't had to be alone because we're so used to being around the crowd. We're so used to the crowd being around us and us not being by ourselves. That's when I understood that the challenges of being alone was us feeling guilty of everything that we was doing. See, us feeling guilty is saying, I feel bad. I feel bad for what has taken place. I feel bad for what has happened to me. I feel bad for not being able to stop anything. See, here's the thing. Guilt destroys confidence because we don't understand what has taken place. See, that's why it's so important to forgive yourself, because when we learn how to forgive ourselves, we become kind to ourselves. We start to give ourselves grace. And as we're giving ourselves grace, we recognize where we are in life. And that is absolutely okay. What you have been through, you can't change the past, yet you can focus on the present to change your future. Because you have to learn how to forgive yourself rather than being hard on yourself. See, my divorce taught me that I can't be hard on myself because nothing's going to come from that. Nothing's going to come from that. The only thing that does come from that is self-destruction. Is my confidence being destroyed? Is me thinking less of myself? What happens when I start thinking more of myself and forgiving and being kind to who I am? See, that's what growth and learning and understanding what forgiveness does. Forgiveness teaches you how to be kind, not only kind, but kind to yourself. That's why it's so important to learn how to be alone, to be okay with being alone and learning along the way. Because when you decide to learn along the way, you're able to pick yourself back up. Because when you get knocked down once, it ain't gonna be the last time. It's not gonna be the last time. More likely, it's gonna happen on a continuous basis. But the more it happens, the more you're able to build yourself up. Because you understand the power of patience. You understand the power of effort. You understand the power of time. Because you are investing that time. You are putting the time into yourself to recognize that you are okay. That's why forgiving yourself is so important. Because we have to say that we are okay. We are okay because it starts with forgiveness. And once we learn how to forgive ourselves, to give ourselves grace, and to recognize everything that we have been through, we can't change. When the next person comes into our life, when that's facing the same exact thing, we know how to give them grace. We know how to be kind to them. We know how to understand what they're going through. Because we just overcame this issue. We just dealt with this problem. And this problem that's here is no longer destroying us. That's why it's so important to forgive yourself, because when you learn how to be alone, the challenges going to come in life. As they're coming in life, you learn how to handle them challenge by challenge. Before I get to the last point, master your mind. 10 master your mind, 10 tips to shift your mindset. See, these books help you learn from other people's stories, other people's experience, and let you know that you are not alone. See, this book is my book, and it's a book that will help you learn and be comfortable with the person that you are. See, it takes time, and also takes learning how to be yourself. But we have to learn from other people's experiences to be okay with becoming the person that we can grow into. If you would like to purchase Master Your Mind, 10 tips to shift your mindset, the link will be in the description. Make sure you click the link. Make sure you click the link to purchase it, and you will have your copy delivered to you as soon as you finish the checkout process. The last point I want to hit on is understanding the importance of forgiveness. So the first 2 points that I hit on, that I discussed, was understanding why forgiveness is important. The second point that I hit on was the challenges that's going to come about as we're going along in life. The last point I want to hit on is understanding how important it is to forgive yourself. See, forgiving yourself is so difficult because we don't know how to. When I was playing football and I made a mistake, my coach used to say one thing. Coach Ely used to say one thing that really stuck with me. Focus on the next play. Focus on the next play. What has already happened is already happened. If they score, they score. If you missed the tackle, if it was a bad play, it has already happened. Focus on the next play. See, that resonate. I learned why that is so important because it taught me how to focus on the next thing rather than the past. See, it comes from understanding, but it also comes from you giving yourself grace. Yes, you just messed something up. Yes, you just did something incorrectly. Yes, you just did something that you wasn't expecting, but it's already done. It's already completed. It's already has happened. How do we change the past if we don't understand the present? You can't. You can't change the past because the past is something that can't be changed. That's when I understood that we have to focus on the next thing that we're doing for ourselves. We have to learn how to be alone so we can focus on the next thing for ourselves. I remember I was in school and I was in biology. I wasn't a great test taker. More likely, I was a horrible test taker because I wasn't studying. First off, what the teacher was teaching in class was not on the test, to my understanding. Okay, when I moved from Arkansas to Florida, I saw 6 different tests that I had failed. I didn't even pass one. It wasn't even one that had a passing grade. All them tests that we taken, I failed every last one of them. It was maybe 6 of them. I stopped going at the last one because obviously I want to be able to pick the grade back up. So I stopped going. And then when I stopped going, I learned that I can't change these tests. I can't change the answer. I can't change what has already took place. I can only change what I'm going to do today. See, I stopped going to school, but actually I stopped going to that class and re-enrolled in another biology. See, the first biology class that I took, I failed because I wasn't good, nor was I studying it, nor did I ask questions. When I got in my next class, I learned how to study. I learned how to ask the right questions. I learned how to be present in class because me being present in class led me to get a C. See, it doesn't happen to you. It's happening for you when you decide to work on yourself. Not only do you change your environment, you have to understand why you are changing your environment. When I took the first biology and I failed because I didn't understand the teacher. I failed because I wasn't paying attention to class. I failed because I wasn't studying. When I went to my other teacher, I learned how to study. I learned how to ask questions. I also learned how to take a test. See, there's a reason behind everything. I can't change the past. I can only focus on the present so my future can be better. See, oftentimes in life, we're so stuck on what has already happened. We're not worried about what's going to happen. That's why it's so important to forgive yourself, because the moment, the day, the year, the month you start to forgive yourself, it's the day you give yourself grace. It's the day you learn why forgiveness is so important, because it's so important because we can't change what has already happened. It's important to recognize that change doesn't come if changing isn't made. Change doesn't come if it's not made. That's a song. That's a song. Change is coming. We can't change the past because what has already happened is already taken place. It has already came, has already left, has already discovered and left into a new place. See, here's the thing about understanding how important it is. You can get better. You can decide to get better today. It's all about your decision. How important is your decision to get better? And start with the man in the mirror. And start with the person in the mirror, because the person in the mirror deserves to forgive themselves. That's when I understood that there's more to life, and we're not understanding what more is because we are so hard on ourselves. We're not aware of everything that we can grow into because we're so worried about the past. See, the past is stopping us because it's dead weight. It's weight that's pulling us back. And as it's pulling us back, we can't move forward. See, what happens when we cut ties with the past? Not necessarily cut ties. What happens when we become aware of the past and forgive everything that we have been through? And once we forgive it, it's like a weight that has lifted up off our shoulders. And as the weight is being lifted, we have to understand there's a time behind everything. Not only was it lifted, we have to understand why it's lifted. It's important to understand and recognize why this weight was lifted up off of you. It was lifted because you started with the person in the mirror. And once you started with the person in the mirror, you forgave everything that you have been through. You have forgiven everything that you have been through. But everything that you have experienced, you have forgiven, because you can't change the past. You can only focus on the present and let your future be the outcome of everything that you're building towards, everything that you're working towards, everything that you're building towards. See, it's important to understand that it takes time. And it also starts with a decision for yourself. That's why forgiving yourself is so important, because if you don't start for yourself, if you don't learn how to forgive you, forgiving yourself and forgiving others will be so confusing, because we don't know and didn't start with ourselves. That's when I learned the power of belief, the power of time, the power of effort. It helps us develop the forgiveness, develop the skills to forgive ourselves. That's why it's so important to be kind to yourself, to be aware of yourself, and to learn everything that you have been through. See, and that's when I understood that we have to understand isolation. Remember, isolation is to be isolated by yourself. It's to be by yourself and to focus on everything that you have been through. It's going to be hard. It's going to be challenging, but the challenge is preparing you to understand yourself. That's the next point. It's challenging. Life is challenging. We have to decide to face it. And the last point that I spoke about was why it's important to forgive yourself. It's important to forgive yourself because the day, the moment, the week, the month, the year you forgive yourself, it's the day, the moment, the week, the month, the year you should learn how to forgive others and give grace to them and understand where they are in life. And it's understanding that we have to forgive and start with ourselves, because we have to start with the person in the mirror. If you enjoyed this video on why forgiving yourself is so important, make sure you leave in the comments on how you are going to start forgiving yourself on everything that you have experienced, everything that you have been through, everything that you have done. How are you going to forgive yourself? Leave in the comments down below on how you're going to forgive yourself. And I love to read it. I love to comment. I can't wait to see it. And even though it's challenging, it's not impossible. And since it's not impossible, we have to learn that it will take time. But it's possible because we have to believe it is. That's why giving yourself grace shows you that you are able to do it. You are able to forgive yourself, because forgiveness is a skill that has to be developed and learned. And as it's developed and learned, you learn how to start with yourself, and why starting with the person in the mirror is so important. If you enjoyed this video and got value from it, make sure you click this video right here to watch more on how to be isolated and what to do from it. I'll see you there.